Welcome to the Freedom Founder podcast. I'm your host, Zach Duggar. Now, when you're flying, you often hear the statement, you'll hear it every single time if you're paying attention, secure your own mask before helping others. It's important that you take care of yourself before you're then able to help others. And that applies to a lot of situations in life. Now, my guest today has some of that of her own experience. Anna Marie is a doctor of traditional naturopathy, a brain health professional, ICF certified coach, certified master herbalist, licensed holistic health practitioner, and just a general overall lover of life. She's also an author, speaker, employee wellness consultant, mother, and QBEC mindset and well-being coach. And her mission is to end mental health stigmas and help all people upgrade their brains and biology through lifestyle choices while rewiring the neuropathways under using holistic modalities. Anna Marie healed her brain after years of depression and challenges with dyslexia and ADD. And she's also the formulator of her own brain nutraceutical line, which includes Happy You, Calm You, and Bright You. And add on top of that, she is also an author of a self-improvement book, Stop Bullying Yourself, a guide to greater health, wealth, happiness, and success. And she's currently working on her second book, which you'll be able to look for in the fall of 2023, so coming soon. So welcome, Anna Marie.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Very grateful for you taking the time to share with us some of your experiences today. Now, one of the things I like to ask people just to get started is kind of on the path to entrepreneurship. You didn't start out going into business school and becoming educated to then start your own company. Tell us a little bit about that journey prior to that point.
Yeah, so I grew up with, interesting circumstances like everybody in their own stories. And I found out from a very young age if I wanted to have things, if I wanted to participate in extracurricular activities, if I wanted to do anything outside of literally waking up and going to school and having my sister's hand-me-down clothes, I would have to earn that. I would have to figure that out. So, I started entrepreneurship when I was younger. I would help my mom clean our dentist's office to make money. I would go with my brothers on the golf course, and we would sneak down by the creeks, and we would collect dirty golf balls and sell them on the side of the street in a cart, an egg carton. Babysitting. My parents for a while sold picnic tables in front of our house. We would put picnic tables together and sell them. They were redwood picnic tables. I grew up in Michigan. Since I was younger, it was always figuring out a way. Right when I was of age, I got a job quickly. Actually in that business, I was like, this was before like tipping was like a regular thing. I was like, hey, why don't we put out a tip jar? Like I was making like $5 an hour or something. So just ever since I was younger, if I wanted to do different things, I had to find a way to financially support myself. And that continued into if I wanted to go to college, I had to pay for that. It wasn't something my parents could afford. And I think even if they could afford it, I don't think they would have just given me the money to go. And so I was always finding a way.
So you had early on that drive and motivation to find a way to get the things that you needed, things that you wanted, and found different opportunities. So that's great. Now that carries you into college. Yes. So in college, what was your background? What was your field of study in college?
Yeah, so I went to Western, and I was going into exercise science and teaching. And what I realized is I could personal train people and actually make 3 times the amount per hour. So I actually started the personal training program at Western Michigan University. And I was teaching aerobics, so group exercise classes as well. And to piggyback off of that, I'm like, hey, why don't we do one-on-one? And there was a nice gal there that was the director of the student rec center. And so we just put together a personal training and it was really awesome. I got to meet so many different students from all walks of life.
Right.
And I just remember how rewarding that was to get to know people from Indonesia and I mean, literally all over the world. Here I am just growing up in a small town. I went to this big university and was exposed to so many amazing, beautiful people. And so that financially helped me pay for school. And so I was working really too much. I wasn't having as much fun as,
Sure.
all my classmates who got to go on spring breaks. I didn't go on the spring breaks. I would stay back and work. And yeah, and then that got me to senior year, and I was recruited to come out to California to work. And I thought I'd only go out for a few years. And with the economy, '08 hit. I graduated
Hmm.
university in '05, and I found myself quickly, okay, I could earn my master's degree out here pretty quickly.
Right.
And so I started working on that. I actually talked to the university and said, hey, I don't want to go into debt. Would
Yep.
you be willing to work out a payment plan with me? So they did. I paid $1,000 a month for 12 months, interest free, and got my master's degree at Point Loma Nazarene University.
Nice. All
Um,
right.
so I always think like you don't know until you ask, and you don't know
Yep.
until you try. And when people know your heart and know where you're at, they're more likely to support you. So I was living on, tortilla chips and some
Sure.
salsa and not doing
Right.
the extras. I didn't get my hair done. I didn't get my nails done. I still actually don't do those things. So
Yep.
I was spending my money on the things that would catapult me forward. And then, yeah, I started investing in real estate
Okay.
as a young professional. I think I was making like $42,000 a year,
Yep.
and yeah, I was making it work. So I was building wealth
Wow.
along the way.
Okay. So you had a mindset of that growth and figuring out opportunities to get you to where you wanted to go. And along that path, you did identify some areas. You mentioned to me that in education and what you were doing, you had found that you were experiencing some challenges personally, I think, during that time that you needed to pursue some additional supports and figure out how do you take care of yourself so that you can then continue to help others, which ultimately did lead you down another path in
Mhm.
life. So tell us a little bit about that point at which you were that led you to that becoming a doctor of traditional naturopathy and adding to those credentials.
Yeah. So during this time,
Mhm.
coming early 20s, again, our brain is not fully developed till maybe we're around 25 years old. I was about 22 at the time. I was struggling really bad with depression. I was like, God, I work so hard. Why does life have to happen like this for me? Nothing good ever
Yeah.
comes of anything. And I was just angry for the fact that I had to continuously work so hard. Yet I
Right.
would look around and see everybody doing all these fun things, going on vacations, and I was bitter. I had a chip on my shoulder, not knowing what
Sure.
God was actually doing for me, right?
Yep.
And so I thought, I should go see a doctor because when you are sick, you go see a doctor, is what I thought. And
Yep.
so I went to a psychiatrist, spent very little time with him, and he prescribed me 3 medications. So I walked out of there with 3 prescriptions in my hand, and I thought, okay, good, this was a successful visit because
Yep.
now I have pills to take, and these pills are going to fix me. This was my
Right.
mindset. Um,
Doctor said so.
Yes. So I started taking these pills, continually to spiral down. They made me worse. And instead of, thinking, oh, maybe I should do something for myself, I thought, you know what? I just go back to the doctor and tell him these pills aren't working. So can you please change them? So again, you
Yeah.
can fix me and these pills can fix me. So
Right.
I went down that rabbit hole for a couple of years until ultimately something, luckily, not everybody has this. I had this little light inside of me that says your life is worth living. You
Yep.
need to really heal yourself, and it comes from you. Quit looking outside yourself. Um, and so I started to pray more. I remember I was at church, and I was
Hmm.
raised Catholic. And so
Hmm.
church was kind of like, oh, I have to go there. Oh, please don't make me go to church, one of
Sure.
those. And so
Yep.
I left Catholicism for a while. And then, in my dark time, I started coaching basketball with a pastor, and he started to drip on me, and
Yep.
he was always happy, right? And so I'm like, if I want to be happy, maybe I should do what happy people are doing,
Right.
And for him, it was, having a faith and going to church. So I remember sitting
Yep.
in the back row that day and just like giving it all up. I was so sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Yep.
And I just felt this weight lift off of me. I literally felt like, okay, like things can go in the direction if I choose it. So I started to pay attention to the food I was putting in my mouth. I started to pay attention to the words I was speaking, to the
Yep.
thoughts I was thinking, to the people I was allowing in my life. I started to look for what was going good for in my life versus what was going bad. Because the funny thing about that is, if we look for the negative, it will always be there for us. And if we choose
Right.
to look for the positive, it will always be there for us. So it's this
Yep.
matter of choice. So I started to really realize, like, if I could rewire how I think about my life, how I speak about my life, I literally can change how my life shows up for me
Right.
every single day. And so that's what I started doing along that journey. I did start diving into holistic health modalities,
Hmm.
realizing that, there are these deficiencies that can tend to make your brain do certain things, that can make your biology do certain things. And so I started to holistically start to work on myself. But
Yep.
I would say the number one thing is changing the way I thought about life.
Yeah. Yeah. And I really like that truth is that these types of concepts of how we think changes how we are and how we believe in our lives entirely, that they're not new concepts. They're, when you look back in scripture and the Bible, there's foundational principles that are there that exist long ago, that these how we think is how we will become. So I think that is very true. So you went through that process of working to rewire your brain, changing how you think, speaking differently about things, and then looking into the more holistic medicine approaches, and that led you to become a doctor of naturopathy and the holistic, the herbal medicine, and the other areas that you focused on. At some point, you started Happy Whole You, and
Mm-hmm.
must have left the education field, at least in the sense of working within the school system.
Yep.
So when did that occur, and how did that transition occur? I imagine, starting, you always had this entrepreneurial mindset, so it wasn't new thinking, but
Right.
starting a business is another leap at that
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, I actually landed what at the time I thought was my dream job. Ultimately, I left
Okay.
education, the classroom, and started to work on an employee wellness program for the largest high school district in the state of California.
Wow.
And my goal with this was to combine, Eastern and Western modalities to support the employees. And I had great success with that. It was really amazing. Towards the end, when I started to not feel in alignment anymore with it, the last thing I had, a big project I worked on was creating a acute care center that any
Okay.
employee or their dependent can go to with no out-of-pocket cost. That's a really beautiful thing for acute care, but the holistic side of it was still lacking. People don't really,
Right.
back then they're like, I don't know, let's not talk about mental health too much. Let's
Right.
not step outside the box too much. And I'm out of the box person for sure.
Yep.
So I quickly started to realize, there was wonderful opportunities, great people I was able to work with. But there was this thing pulling at me, which I believe is my soul. And I think we
Hmm.
all have this soul contract and this purpose of why we are here and what we're to contribute.
Yeah.
And ultimately, my whole life, I just wanted to be happy. And what I realized along my journey is true happiness comes with wholeness, right? We have to look at
Yeah.
all aspects of our life, and it's up to you to do that. So that's how I came up with Happy Whole You. We all want to be happy. To be happy, you must be whole, and the choice is up to you. And that's the power of it. It's
Yeah.
your choice. So I started to create Happy Whole You as like kind of like an online platform where I would work with
Okay.
people, coach them, do group trainings, things like that, courses. And then my heart was like, I want to literally build a facility where it doesn't
Hmm.
matter, all walks of life can come in here. It's like a spa for your brain,
Yeah.
and you can essentially heal yourself with different modalities. And so I have a center right now in Bakersfield,
Yeah.
California. There's one in North Carolina as well. And we use high tech pieces of equipment with old school Chinese medicine, holistic health modalities to increase brain function, decrease body inflammation, and build a strong foundation of health for people. And we also sprinkle in my line of brain nutraceuticals that I
Yeah.
formulated. And we get some really awesome results. And when people heal what's going on within them, things around them start to change, their family starts to heal. And so it's a beautiful thing to be a part of.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What type of responses do people give you in regards to like just their own testimonies about the changes that they're experiencing working with you?
So I get this all the time. They're
Hmm.
just like, I just feel like myself again.
Yeah.
Like it's like we get so used to functioning on, such a anxious state, or
Hmm.
so we learn how to function on low energy, on caffeine,
Right.
and it's like this burning the candle at both ends.
Yeah.
So that's one of the biggest things is people like feel like themselves again. And the other thing is they say that when their challenges are coming up in their life, they're like, yeah, I was just able to like deal with it. Like I was just able to like
Yeah.
handle it. And so that's really cool because when we're tired and when we're beaten down and we're not feeling well, it can be the littlest thing that feels very heavy and very, troublesome to us versus if that presents itself when we are in a very good space and we are strong and feel healthy and we're
Yeah.
grounded, we're like, okay, yeah, this is something for me to deal with and everything's okay though. So,
Right.
yeah, so that's a couple very common things people say.
Yeah. Now, can you demystify it just a little bit for those that may not understand with regards to high tech equipment and traditional approaches to holistic medicine? Can you give us some examples of what that means?
Yeah, so when people come to see me, I get people from all over that come
Yeah.
here. We have what's called a theta pod. It's literally this pod you get in,
Hmm.
and it stimulates your brain, right and left hemisphere, talking, creating new neural pathways, forces you in a meditative state. A lot of people have a hard time meditating, so it allows you to
Right.
actually relax and recover. We use a piece of equipment called a biocharger. It's literally like plugging your body into the wall and charging up your cells. It increases
Yep.
mitochondria function.
Okay.
We use medical grade sauna. So when I say high tech, these are the
Hmm.
things I'm speaking of. And now,
Yep.
if we talk about some old school stuff that's available, using herbals, like some of the blends that I've created are very specific to how they support brain health and how they support
Hmm.
emotional brain health. So sometimes we pair in some nutraceuticals for people to take. And then, I just talking to people and giving them
Yeah.
support. I do some energy work on people, which, it's funny because, when we talk about being a Christian or God or all that, people start to, like, they get a little weird. And I get this. Like, if you
Uh-huh.
would have told me 15, 20 years ago that I could, like, move people's energy and work on chakras and meridians, I would be like,
Uh-huh.
what are you talking about? You are crazy. This is nuts. But if you go down to the very basic foundation of our cells, if you go inside every single cell until you can't go any further, the only thing that's left is energy. So we are
Yeah.
actually more energy than we are physical matter. When our neurotransmitters are functioning in our brain, those neurons that are firing and wiring, it's energy. So when I work with people, there's different parts that you can actually touch on the body or in their energy field, and they actually like have a different sensation that goes through them. So when energy gets blocked in the body, and this can happen through meridians, and if you think of meridians are those highways of energy that flow through the body. They go through different organ systems, connect muscle. And if you were to go
Yep.
to an acupuncturist, they would poke a needle to open up your meridian. So those are what I'm talking about. It's literally
Yep.
this blueprint of invisible energy that flows through the body. Well, there are acupressure points, and there's points in energy medicine that you can actually touch or press on to move energy, and you feel the opening of the energy and the flow. When energy
Yep.
gets impeded or gets blocked, it can weaken your tissue over time. So I do some energy medicine stuff. I also am a firm believer that any physical ailment that we have in the body has manifested due to an emotional blockage that we've been storing in our body, whether it's our own stuff or something you've inherited through lineage. So we work on bringing awareness to that as well. So it's very, what I do is very different. I don't just use one modality, and
Right.
To verbalize it is challenging, but when people experience it, they're like, okay, I get it now.
Right. Right. It sounds like a lot of it's based on foundational biology and psychology and put together to aid somebody in working through in different ways and going up a complete package. And the nutraceuticals, as you mentioned, they were really available supplements that were multiple different items that somebody might have to take, but you put them together to create that complete package. So you don't have to remember 18 different items.
Right. Like literally when I first started, I was recommending for people to go to the health food store, and I would write down like 6 or 7 things for them to pick up. And of course you go to the health food store and they're like, okay, well, which type of tryptophan do I get? Like which type of magnesium do I get? Because there's different types. And so, or different brands. And so I was like, why hasn't anyone like tried to put these together in one bottle to make things simpler? And I'm like, one, can it happen? And two, will it still be as effective? So I was like, well, I guess I better try because no one else is doing it. So I did it, and it does work. What I realized is you can make way more money selling, 6 or 7 bottles of something than selling one. But, but for me and what we do, this is just one piece of the puzzle. But the nutraceutical line makes a huge difference in people's life because we work with people remotely as well. They don't have to come into Happy Whole You. And so those are great tools to use from afar as well. So,
yeah, no, that's great. So that foundational entrepreneurship mindset and carrying into the educational world, the body, the systems, the personal training, to the holistic medicine, working on yourself, to helping others. I mean, that's where things have led on that walk. And now you mentioned even working with people remotely as well as locally. So if somebody did want to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to do so?
So they can go on Instagram at Happy Whole You and DM us, or you can always email us at info@happywholeyou.com.
Okay, excellent. All right. And they can, I assume, check out the website as well for a little bit additional information.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. And I have one question that I like to always ask all of our guests is, if you were to be given $1 million to invest in your business and yourself in any way, no restrictions, what would you do with that today?
Honestly, I would just allow our services to be free of charge. So our bills are paid. And we just break even because the more people we can help, the better. And so I would probably just reinvest it back into my community to support mental health.
Okay. I love that. I love that answer. I think that altruism and thinking of others. And so I appreciate that. And so if anyone does want to reach out, please do reach out to Anna Marie at Happy Whole You on Instagram. Check out the website, email info@happywholeyou.com. Check out her book, Stop Bullying Yourself. These weren't things that she just came up with because they were ideas that she saw someone else go through, but personal experiences. So those are life-changing. And next book on the horizon, I don't know, is that a topic you can talk about yet as far as what that one is?
So that book is about healing your body beyond the physical, using frequencies and energy. So it might be a little bit out there for some people, but eventually, if they're working on healing themselves, there's no way that they're not going to get to the energetics eventually. So yeah, and if people want to get the first book too, Stop Bullying Yourself, you can get it on Audible. I always tell people, because some people are like, I don't read books. I'm like, I will read it to you.
Yes.
So yeah,
Yes.
but I'm excited for the other book to come out. I'm still working on the ending and refining some things, but I'm excited to get this out, because like I said, if you would have asked me 15, 20 years ago, I would have been like, what is this woman talking about?
Right.
So it's pretty cool.
Absolutely. Well, please do check out what Anna Maria has been working on. Check out the book, check out the website, check out the podcast, Happy Whole You, as well. So thank you for listening today. And thank you, Anna Marie, for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so